Wildflowers in a rare grassland prairie, recently purchased by the people of Arkansas. But how do you put a value on nature? How do you put a price on a waterfall? How much is it worth to have a mountain to climb? How do you value the preservation of a home that stood amidst a battle of the Civil War fought by Arkansas's sons? How much is it worth to have your children learn about their natural world by actually touching the world of nature? It can be measured now, measured in pennies, measured by pieces of pennies, by a fraction of a cent, 1/8 to be precise. You see, in 1996, the voters of Arkansas decided that a conservation sales tax of just 1/8 of a penny could pay for all of this. And it's money that by law can only be spent on conservation and preservation. It's a tale that's just beginning. Many stories of how a piece of a penny could do so much.
Can you see his teeth in there?
Yes.
This is truly hands-on learning. Opened just a few months, the first Arkansas Game and Fish Nature Center, the Governor Mike Huckabee Delta Rivers Nature Center, has already hosted thousands of visitors and dozens of field trips.
2, 3. Oh, we're going in circles. The stomach is an air bladder.
And a front row seat on the interaction of natural life. At the largest aquarium in the state, they can see the rare paddlefish and watch other fish practice the work of the food chain. Floodplains and the relationship of the river delta environment are all explained here. Young explorers are welcome to feel the texture of animal life in the natural state.
Antlers are like bones. They're made up of calcium.
Learning about the outdoors in Arkansas has never been so personal for our young people.
We've got a lot of neat animals here, and they've never had the opportunity to see them, especially up close. And when I just see them just wide open and just in awe of some of the creatures that we have here, it's really enjoyable. See, owls have feathers all the way down to the tips of their...
It's an unforgettable day for these fourth graders, a lesson understood by their teacher, who looks forward to the opening of 3 more nature centers across the state.
They ate it up. It was fabulous. We do a unit on Arkansas, and this tied in with everything we did in the unit. So it was wonderful.
She's still denning in this big cypress tree.
She is a very big bear with 2 very young cubs. And this bear biologist aims to take her out of the White River National Wildlife Refuge and move her 100 miles to southern Arkansas and the Felsenthal Refuge. Programs like this were almost impossible to pay for before 1996, when wildlife budgets faced cutbacks, not expansion. But times have changed, and new conservation initiatives like this are giving young cubs a new home.
Ready? All right.
Both above and below the waters of Arkansas, there is growing recognition that strong enforcement measures are needed to safeguard our natural state and our citizens.
I see him with a life jacket on. I need to see 2 more life jackets, please.
The need for more protection and management of Arkansas's wildlife and fisheries is finally being met. Since 1996, the Enforcement Division has been expanded by 30 officers. All counties now have at least 2 wildlife officers. In addition to stepping up waterway patrols, there are now specialty teams. K-9 units help find contraband in the field, and there is the Game and Fish Dive and Rescue Team.
Game fish, spearfishing season doesn't open till the 15th.
Oh, yeah.
It's only scaled her up.
Not only are the divers on hand to help with rescue and recovery operations, they have also brought enforcement to spearfishing, a move that will safeguard the trophy stocks of Arkansas's waters.
The dive team has given the enforcement officers in the field a tremendous tool in being able to enforce the regulations of spearfishing.
You've heard people talk about prairies and being a sea of grasses. If you can kind of envision.
Wildlife biologist Greg Mathis, waist deep in nature and history. If you had crossed through this state hundreds of years ago, you could have seen this. A blackland prairie, so rare now they barely exist in America. Yet land managers at Game and Fish secured nearly 5,000 acres. A prairie you and your children can experience.
I'll guarantee you we're going to devise some kind of system to let people come here and just see exactly the way it was when the pioneers traveled across this part of Arkansas.
The thousands of acres of land acquired by the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission are priceless for other reasons. They represent your access to public hunting, lands and wildlife for all time, for you and your children. There's a new sight to experience at Devil's Den State Park. The view you can share is progress. At this park, built by the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 30s, some important upgrades are taking place.
If you look at this project here today, that's a $500,000 project replacing an existing pool that was here with all the water toys and so forth. It's going to be a great addition to Devil's Den State Park.
For Parks Planning and Development Manager Stan Graves, this pool addition is just one component of the park system's phenomenal rebuilding program. $45 million in ongoing or completed projects are happening at 45 parks across the state. Where else? How about Pettigene State Park? Another facility built by the CCC, but in need of repair. At the Cedar Falls Overlook and at the Pettigene grave site, new barrier-free walkways that let everyone stroll to the views that are priceless.
Those are exceptional projects that again enables those visitors with disabilities to be able to access the scenic beauty of Cedar Falls, and of course to go out to Stouts Point on Pettigene and be able to see that fantastic view that you see from that particular viewpoint.
Well, this is the scenic overlook at the Yellow Rock Trail. It's another 1/8 to 1% project.
Anyone who has ever admired the work of the CCC will marvel at how their work is being restored. The overlook above the Lee Creek Valley of Devil's Den captures the whispers of the wind and history. Upon the foundation of long-lost cabins, new lodging facilities have also risen for park visitors. Friends of the park like the forever commitment of the 1/8 funding.
And we need to make a commitment to the park system. It should be not only for us, but for all generations. And it's a continuing thing. It's not a one-time commitment, it's a long-term commitment.
Not everyone wants to rough it in Arkansas's great outdoors, and so attention is being paid to accommodation system-wide. At DeGray State Park, a $9 million overhaul of the lodge and park facilities. On Mount Magazine, a long-awaited state park with a planned lodge is beginning to take shape.
Doesn't get much better than nature, I tell you.
And at Arkansas State Parks, campgrounds worn out by loyal campers are being rebuilt.
This fire ring is one of the new additions that we've added to our furnishings here at White Oak Lake State Park Campground.
Park Superintendent Ron Sally at one of 45 new campsites. The makeover here includes new electric and water systems, bigger pads for larger camping trailers, improving not just a park, but an experience.
The main reason that we're doing this is so that future generations can enjoy Arkansas State Parks for a long, long time. And this is what's important.
Redoing, renovating, it's just like, man, it's a great program. That's all I can say.
Another park superintendent, O.C. Hunter, is happy because he can't believe how much his park has changed in a few short years. New visitor center, new dock, new bathhouse, a seawall, and unseen but still important improvements in water, electrical, and sewer systems. Changes that leave his 200,000 annual visitors smiling too. So much has changed at Arkansas State Parks, and yet so much has remained the same. A day on a mountain trail is still a special time.
I usually do the east summit and climb all the way over to the visitor center. And that's
Richard Wyckoff moved back to Arkansas from California. This is one reason why. With 1/8 cent money, the thousands of footfalls a week on the Pinnacle Mountain Trail are being matched by maintenance and trail rebuilding. Add in other improvements and the payoff starts to shine. The parks are coming back, and it's only the beginning.
I know the people of Arkansas had every right to expect that this tax would be turned into things that they could see. And I believe any state park in Arkansas now, you can drive in and you can see the benefits of what we're doing. And if they'll just hang on a few more years, they'll be astonished. We've always been better than a lot of the competitors. I think we're on our way to being the best.
Park managers call these new improvements the Legacy Program. When they talk about being in the forever business, it's not the bridges lasting forever that they speak of. It's about the handoff between generations. They don't build houses with chisels and broad beams anymore, but if you're trying to rescue history, you do it the old way.
I think this is a great example of an antebellum house. It's historical because of the Battle of Helena and the part it played. And from that respect, it's important to preserve it.
For 143 years, the Moore Horner House has looked down upon Helena and the river. It has survived time, a war, and fire.
We're keeping this protected temporarily until we get some work done on this, and more than likely this will all be used as a template for a brand new railing.
Department of Arkansas Heritage Specialist Katie Harrington at the charred railing of this historic structure. It will eventually be restored, all of it. The Department of Arkansas Heritage also receives a portion of 1/8 cent collections. It's a smaller share than parks or game and fish, but it's enough to spur preservation efforts across the state.
The Department of Arkansas Heritage wants to preserve this house because of its Civil War history. It also wants to maintain it for future programs the Delta Cultural Center hosts, including educational programs.
And so, with careful work inside and out, the Moore Horner House stands as an example of what can still be rescued of our Arkansas heritage. Someday, you'll be able to visit here and see the holes left by musket fire on a day when the Civil War raged around this home.
So there's actually visible signs of our history that's right here, and they wouldn't be here if the house was lost.
Another old house saved just in the nick of time is the old State House. With a mix of grants, state funding, and 1/8 cent money, it was rescued from potential collapse. From the foundations to the ceiling, Arkansas's most important old house was rescued. What once looked like this now stands proudly again.
How many rooms does it have? How many can you see right now?
This is no state house, but it could be one of the first houses. The Plum Bayou Log House now sits in the city, but brings the lessons of frontier life to children from across the state. The 4th grade has moved to 1850 for a few hours, and they've got some chores to do. Making butter is just the beginning.
Does it feel like butter yet?
Yes.
Oh, good.
The Department of Arkansas Heritage is caretaker for many things. Passing on our heritage to young people may be one of the most important.
Nobody can go back into history, but we can bring history up to their world so that they can see the differences and the similarities.
Our world moves faster than theirs, those people of the pioneer days, but we can slow it down every so often to make sure the lessons that make up Arkansas's heritage are not lost.
And the two who have a hold of the baton bar, go ahead and beat the work. The ones who have.
From the Plum Bayou House to the new historic Arkansas Museum, the goal of preservation has not been lost. The faces of our visitors tell us the lessons are getting through.
Sure looks real, doesn't it?
At the Delta Cultural Center, the importance of personal history and a musical heritage are saved as well. And there are so many more programs affected by the 1/8 cent. For instance, the Arkansas Arts Council offers grants to encourage the creation and preservation of art, often in areas underserved by more traditional arts programs. Preservation isn't always about buildings and people and a way of life. Sometimes it's just about a place. There are 58 such places in Arkansas designated as natural areas, and more being added. These are unique places, some small, some not, that just ought to be saved. The Lawrence Creek Natural Area, a surprisingly short drive from downtown Little Rock, is one of them. Acquired more than a decade ago, but developed now with 1/8 funds. There are rare finds here on the 294 acres, trees and frogs rarely seen anywhere else. There is one more use for the conservation money. For the first time in Arkansas history, there is a program to turn the tide against one of the state's most challenging problems, litter. Keep Arkansas Beautiful receives 1% of the payoff from pennies and uses it to educate people toward an improved environmental stewardship. Each year, thousands of volunteers contribute nearly $2.5 million worth of donated time to eliminate litter, encourage recycling, and enhance our scenic beauty and pride. Those pieces of a penny add up, and we've only begun to tell the story of how conservation and preservation is paying off. It's just something you'll have to see for yourself, and that's what's remarkable. This program has only just begun. For years and generations to come, the payoff of saving our natural state will continue. Go visit a state park, any park, and look for the signs of progress and renewal. See for yourself how Arkansas's unique heritage is being rescued, our culture preserved. Go visit a fish hatchery and see what a total overhaul of all 5 state hatcheries has meant. Another small example here at the Spring River Trout Hatchery. Upgrades will mean 500,000 more rainbow trout each year for the state's anglers. Or consider one more story. When the idea of a 1/8 cent conservation amendment was just a dream, a young girl joined an outdoor-loving father for a picture to help promote the idea. The discovery of nature was at stake here. Now, it's the discovery of how nature is being saved that's important to this same bright young girl named Jessica.
My dad and my mom have shown me just to have a love for the park and just enjoy what we have and how beautiful everything is. And I want my kids to be able to, appreciate that too.
Promises made to keep Arkansas natural forever. Promises kept. Promises to be delivered on for generations to come.